Hello, my fellow subjects of the internet out there. This is the Aromantic Shipper, back again, doing my final review series for this year, talking about the Spider-Man movies, both the Raimi trilogy and the two Mark Webb movies. So, first of all, of course, I'm going to be reviewing the first Spider-Man movie, the original one, the origin story, and giving my thoughts about it. So, funny thing. So, my introduction to, Spider-Man was, if not the cartoon, which I think I saw a little bit before, but it was basically my first official exposure to Spider-Man was, from the Amazing Spider-Man movie, the first one by Mark Webb, which I really liked. And then, after seeing the first Amazing Spider-Man, I went back and I watched Spider-Man 3, because that was, the only movie that was available on the TV at that time. And understandably, I was a bit weirded out by it. I didn't really understand what was going on, and I definitely did not enjoy it as much as watching the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. But regardless, this year I went back and watched... I finally watched the first two Raimi trilogy Spider-Man movies, as well as rewatching the third one in context and rewatching the Mark Webb movies. So I'm here to give my thoughts about all of them. And so, basically, giving my thoughts on the first Spider-Man movie. I gotta be honest, I know a lot of people like this film. I really don't enjoy it that much, in my opinion. It's not that bad, but it's not that good either, in my opinion. It's just I don't know, it's just the biggest problem for me is that it's just really difficult for me to take it seriously. It's just it's so hokey and goofy, incredibly so. It's over the top. So, it's just, the biggest example of this problem for me in the movie is William Dafoe as the Green Goblin. This is the amazing villain everyone likes. Seriously? He's so unbelievably over the top. And I get that that's the charm of it for some people. And some people really like the super goofy and hokey and ridiculous tone of this first Spider-Man movie. But I don't. It's so hard for me to actually take the movie seriously in what it's I mean, seriously, I could... Literally, throughout this entire movie, I can never take the Green Goblin seriously. Never! The scene where a mask is yelling at him that a true warrior needs to attack the heart. What the fuck? It's just I was bawling my eyes out laughing at how ridiculous that moment was. That's not a serious, that's not a serious villain moment. That's a fucking joke. It's just I don't know, I could never fucking take the Green Goblin seriously. He's just so ridiculous in this movie. There's also tons of other stuff too. There was that ridiculously dumb scene where the Green Goblin just kidnaps Spider-Man and basically asks him to be his friend on the rooftop because, oh, we're not so different, you and I. It's just it's so stupid. Another problem I have with this movie is that Norman Osborn, at the end of the movie, he's basically, telling Peter, I've been like a father to you. And it's just but the relationship was really not that well established in the movie at all. They have a few scenes and they don't really give much of an indication of any kind of deep, serious relationship. So, I mean, in terms of other problems in this movie as well that I have, I really just don't like Mary Jane that much. This isn't much of a controversial take, I guess, but, she just isn't really a very good love interest, and she largely just exists in this movie and in the other movies to be a damsel in distress for the climax, which is not particularly interesting. And, and on top of that, the special effects in this movie really do not hold up that well, and one of the most ridiculous, seriously, one of the stupidest fucking things in this movie is the way the Green Goblin, uses his explosives during, the midpoint of the movie, and when he blows people up, they just turn into skeletons. It's so incredibly cartoonish. I don't understand how people take this seriously. And, the acting in this movie can also be kind of not that great and awkward at times, and, there are some really funny and strange lines, again, going back to the William Dafoe incredible hamminess, like him, like when he kidnapped Aunt May, he was just saying, "Finish the prayer, finish it." Like what the fuck? And then like and then. And then, like, Spider-Man, when he has that confrontation with the Green Goblin, he's like, "It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind." Like, what? He says it's really not very good dialogue. It's very, very comic booky to a ridiculous extreme. And on top of that, you think that, like, again, the action scenes in this movie as well, they really are not that great and really don't hold up, especially compared to, like, the action scenes that, you know, happen later in this trilogy and in the Mark Webb trilogy. And like for example, you know, I don't know, it's just like the action scenes in this movie just aren't really all that great. There isn't really you know, there isn't really a ton that is especially stands out about them. The one exception is the final fight between Peter and the Green Goblin. I like that it's focused, you know, mostly on hand to hand and really gets honestly pretty brutal by the end. That was honestly like really one of the only scenes in this movie that I could say I really enjoyed, the Green Goblin versus, you know, Spider-Man in their final fight. It was honestly pretty well done, and I did like it. And, you know, so that is one positive. And, you know, there are also other good scenes, too, like, you know, of course, Uncle Ben's death, which was pretty sad, and, you know, him, you know, chasing after his killer and stuff. Like, there are good scenes in this movie, but it's just, like, really weighed down by a lot of other stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people see this movie as, like, you know, the perfect Spider-Man origin story, and, yeah, it's not bad, but it does a well enough job in handling Peter's character and his origins, but I just really don't think it particularly stands out, other than the fact that it's so incredibly cheesy and hokey that I can barely take it seriously. And, like, the other issues in this film just really weigh it down, and I don't really like it that much. So, for me, quite honestly, Spider-Man 1 is, I know this is a really controversial take, but my least favorite of all of the Spider-Man movies, including, you know, the other movies in the Raimi trilogy, and the two Mark Webb films. Spider-Man 1 is my least favorite Spider-Man movie out of the 5. So, yeah, that's basically what I think about it. I mean, there are other movies that are probably, you know, I mean, obviously this movie is like, it's much less of a mess and more well-crafted than Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But honestly, I'm going to get to those movies later, but I honestly have a lot more to like in those movies than I do in the first Spider-Man movie. So that's my controversial hot take, and that's what I thought about Spider-Man 1. But if you have a different opinion, leave it down in the comments below. This has been the Aromantic Shipper. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, remember, just because you can't feel love doesn't mean you shouldn't want other people to. Bye!